Chapter 8 Flora. Someone is shaking my shoulder, and when I open my eyes, it's a man in a weird suit, and I jump. And then I quickly remember where I am, why I'm here. He laughs. Sorry about that, Flora. You look so peaceful, but we're supposed to check vitals every 2 hours. Now that I'm waking up, I realize he's younger than I thought. A college student, maybe. He looks pretty cute. I smile at him. It's okay. I look at his suit, like I'll find a name tag. You're just doing your job. Well, my internship anyway, he says, grinning. And it's Joey. I look into his eyes, and he puts a thermometer in my mouth. And I think that there's certain worse places to be than here with him. The thermometer beats. I jump up again, and he laughs again as he looks at it. Still normal. He makes a note on the clipboard, and he's off. It's silly, but I almost feel jealous that he so quickly moves on to the next passenger. Oliver is sitting in his cot, staring at the TV. I feel a little bad for giving him such a hard time before, but I had a lot on my mind, and his anxiety was stressing me out. My mom always says I have a good bedside manner, and that I can be a doctor or a nurse, but there are no limits to how I can handle. Hey, I say softly. Oh, hey, he says, playing with his phone. I grab my phone and see it's only 5 p.m. I would have been landing at La Guardian right now, greeted by Mom, who would be infants at the traffic. But really, I known it was anger she had felt from Father. My cousin would be in the back seat, asking me a bunch of super specific questions about the planes I took, questions that I wouldn't be able to answer, which would frustrate all of us. Being here reminds me of the long flights I used to take to visiting my dad before he married Goldie and moved to the DR. That powerful feeling of nowhere, having nothing to do, being nobody. The 3 years of flights I took over summer and school breaks from New York to San Francisco were some of the most relaxing experiences. I was flying away from at least one parent and away from at least one set of emotions I didn't want to get involved in or deal with. And I love Randy, but sometimes I just wanted a break from being the overprotective older cousin. I decide to watch TV to take my mind off everything, and it works, because seeing people make cupcakes on TV is mesmerizing. My phone vibrates against my leg sometime during the next show, which is about some kind of bread making competition, and it's my mom calling. Finally, I text her hours ago on the van from the plane to the warehouse, telling her about the quarantine and the flight delay, and telling her not to worry. I know I'm not really sick, but I'm still happy that the woman who gave birth to me wants to check on me. Hi, Mom. I knew I shouldn't have let you visit your father, and that woman. I had a bad feeling about this trip all along. Maybe if your father could think about someone besides himself, he'd realize how selfish she is. How how have you got how you have gotten how you have enough going at home with your cousin, and that you don't need international travel thrown in. God, I can't stand him. And her. Has has she Has she had more work done since you saw her last? I saw that Instagram picture she put up, and she even looks even more like a Barbie doll than before. I begin to tune out, and those hot tears that started on the plane have returned. My mom pats it on and on. I know he has all the time in the world, but my life is planned to the second. And today is my day with Randy while Uncle Cred is at work, and it's just one day, Mom, I interrupt, wiping up my tears. Don't worry, I'll be home tomorrow. My mom sighs. Tomorrow's no help for me today. Well, I'm sorry, and quarantine is awesome, thanks for asking. I hang up and turn my phone off, tossing it back into my cot. Oliver must have heard anything. He catches me looking at him and blushes a little. You feeling better? I asked, trying to distract us both. And before he can ask me about the conversation I just had, he studies my face for a second before speaking. Yeah, I guess so. I guess. So far, everyone here seems to be okay. That dude from the flight is in 30-day quarantine somewhere different. But he's the only person sick so far. His fever wasn't even that high at all. Can you believe that? I don't say anything. I look around the room at people lounging on their cots. Some reading, some watching TV. Everyone seems pretty relaxed now, and even Pussberry is snoring in his cot. The late afternoon light steams through the warehouse windows, and casts a pretty glow across the room. I push the conversation with my mom even further back in my brain and wiggle it against my pillow. Does this remind you of camping at all? Or do you feel like we're in a big boat out in the middle of the ocean? I asked. Oliver looks confused. No? I feel silly for saying that, so I changed the subject. Where in Brooklyn do you live anyway? Park Slope. You? Wow, fancy stroller capital of the world. Nice. I'm in Bay Ridge. Oliver looks mad for a sec, then smiles. Yeah. And my mom is a member of the co-op too. I like his smile. We'll be back at the airport before you know it, I say, to fill the space. For some reason, I don't totally believe myself. He looks at me for a long time, and he smiles, and his smile leaves his face. I hope you're right, he finally says. Later, we get pizza for dinner. Who knew quarantine could be so tasty? One of the CDC workers checks my vitals again after I eat, and I wonder if the pizza hot will affect my temperature. I'm only disappointed when she says normal and moves on to Oliver. Oliver barely looks up from his phone as the cuff is placed on his arm and the thermometer in his mouth. He's been messing around with that thing all night. The worker says normal, but Oliver is so focused on his phone that he doesn't hear anything. She says normal again, but he still doesn't hear her. The worker is clearly annoyed and in a hurry, so she yanks the cutoff and pulls the temperature out of his mouth. Oliver looks up, startled, but the worker has already walked away. He rubs his bottom teeth. Ouch, he says quietly. He starts to pick up his phone again, but sees me watching. The service here is awful. I hardly get any texts, even a Wi-Fi. Somehow my mom's message keep coming through. He laughs nervously. I want to tell him that the service isn't the problem, but I don't have the heart or the strength to help him through another panic attack. I turn my phone back on, but I'm not getting any messages from anyone besides stupid Goldie, whose most recent message is a cartoon koala bear with a big bandage over its furry ear. Great. Goldie's more concerned about me being quarantined than my own mother is. I watch TV the rest of the night until they turn off at 10. I doze a bit, but we get up every 2 hours for vital checks. Oliver is pretty gooky through the checks, but finally during one of them he rolls over to face me, and I wave at him. He looks a little startled, but says, "Aren't you tired?" I ball the blanket up my hand. The sooner I go to sleep, the sooner I'll have to wake up and go home, I say. Don't you mean get to wake up and get to go home? I realized how bitter that sounded. Yeah, something like that. He looks at me for a second, then yawns. I can't help asking, what's a hurry to get home anyway? Oliver fidgets. Oh, there was this party last night. It's over with now, but I'm still hoping I see someone when I get back. I hope maybe. He looks at me sheepless. Of course, there's a dumb girl, I say to myself. But Oliver's cot isn't that far away from me, so he hears me. Good night, Flora. Good night, Flora. He looks hurt, which just annoys me even more, and makes me feel more terrible about everything. Around 10 a.m., the worker brings us bagels. I think I hear Oliver humming as he eats his, which fills me with rage I don't understand. Shortly after, people are cleared to go back to the airport, and the passengers are joking and laughing, and I'm starting to feel a little panic of how quickly the night went. Dread sits in my stomach like a lead weight. Then it's just me and Oliver. A worker stops four by four our last vitals checks, but clearly the nobility of it has wore off for her. She's looking at the TVs, which have been switched back on and are now showing a soccer game somewhere in Europe. But before I really think about what I'm doing, I take the thermometer of my mouth, rub it between my hands a few times, then pop it back in my mouth again. Chapter 9. Oliver. I watch Flora bathed when the thermometer beeps. The CDC worker looks startled at the result. She looks at Flora and sighs weirdly. I start to open my mouth to tell the worker what I just saw, but Flora catches my eye and shakes her head furiously. But you, I say, I don't know if I really intend to tell on her, and I never finish the sentence. But suddenly, Flora grabs me by the shirt, pulls me forward, and gives me a kiss on the lips. There's a gasp all around us, and the CDC worker sighs again. 30-day quarantine for you two officially starts now. Chapter 10. Flora. Oliver pulls away from my kiss quickly. Up close, I see the green flecks in his blue eye again. His eyes remind me of looking out at an open window on a spring day, feeling a cold breeze on my face. He pulls away farther from me, keeps backing up until he's in the corner of his cot. His mouth is opening and closing, but he isn't making any actual sounds, any actual words. I sort of expect this to be a huge blaring sirens, all raid horns, something loud and noisy happening, or at least more running, more panic, more yelling. But the only thing I hear is my heartbeat drumming in my ears. The worker calmly shuffled around with the clipboard, making hurried, quick phone calls. It's weird that no one is talking to us. I feel like someone should be talking to us, telling us something. And I feel like a mouse in a laboratory. I wonder if there's a pamphlet. So you're going to be in quarantine for 30 days or something. Oliver keeps staring at me at the corner of his cot. I hear his phone vibrate in his pocket, but he either doesn't feel it or doesn't care because he keeps staring at me. He finally shapes his mouth into a word, but speaks so quietly I wouldn't hear him if he was farther away from me. Why, he says hoarsely. I don't say anything. I wish I knew what to tell him. I wish I had an answer for him. Chapter 11. Oliver. I want to push her off my cult. I want to kiss her again. I want to rinse out my mouth with acid. I want to call Casey. I want to know what's going on through Flora's head and Kelsey's head. I want a do-over with my first kiss. The air feels very thick in the room, and I want to get off my cot, but I can't because Flora is there, and I want to touch her and never touch her again. And my first kiss was supposed to be with Kelsey, and I was supposed to have gone to the party with Casey last night, and now I can't see her for 30 days, and it might as well be 30 years. 30 days, a month. I quickly add 30 to the current day, and it's the middle of April, and 2 days before it brings formal. And it's not fair. Why did Flora do it? And why were her lips so soft? And why haven't I told on her yet? Why am I letting her get away with this? I could stop this all now, tell the workers what I saw, but would they believe me? And then what? They take our temperatures again? Flora fakes the fever again? And I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to anyway. I watch the workers milling around, and I have a sensation of being stuck at restaurants while trying to get a check and not knowing who to ask. I never know who to ask about anything. And why is Flora sitting so calmly on my cot? And why wasn't anyone telling us anything? And why does my leg feel so weird? I put my hand on my pocket, realizing my phone is buzzing. I take it out, I look at it, I put it back in my pocket, realize it didn't actually read what was on the screen. I take it out again. 11 missed calls from Mom, and a text from Kelsey. Oh my God, 30 days of quarantine? Can I be your nurse? And the idea of her taking care of me is sweet and amazing and makes my chest feel warm. Until I remember she's in New York and I'm in Florida. And that Flora just kissed me. And I'm going to be in quarantine for 30 days. But Kelsey's flirting with me, I think. Maybe quarantine won't be all bad. And how long can 30 days really be? Chapter 12. Flora. Oliver keeps taking his phone out of his pocket and looking at it like he's never seen the thing before, like he doesn't understand what it is or how it got there. Watching him reminds me I should probably call my mom and tell her I won't be coming home today at all. Late after all, I think about her getting Randy ready to go to the airport, which I know is no small process, especially if he doesn't think he's ready to leave yet. I think about them sitting in traffic, Randy asking my mom a million questions, him getting frustrated when she can't answer because she's concentrating on the traffic. A little tiny flame of guilt starts to burn in my stomach. I remind myself how awful my mom was on the phone, how selfish. And it's not like 30 days is that long. I take my phone out of my backpack, and I'm a bit startled when I see all the notifications and texts. I scroll through, see that there are 5 missed calls from Mom and 2 voicemails, and somehow a few missed calls from my dad and Goldie, and 1 voicemail from Goldie. I listened to the first one from my mom. Flora, I'm sorry about last night, and I'm sorry you were in quarantine. We're stuck in Miami overnight. I know that must be scary. She pauses. You're a good cousin to Randy, and you make your uncle's Craig life easier. She pauses again. I don't know why I'm talking like I won't see you in a couple of hours. Anyway, I want to apologize and get that out of our way. Have a good flight home. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh God, she called this morning. The timestamp is 11:13. Just a few minutes before I messed with the monitor. The flame of guilt is getting hotter. I listened to the next voicemail from my mom, which came in a few minutes ago, at 11:26. Flora, I'm watching the news right now. Please tell me that there's another flight with 2 passengers who are going to 30-day quarantine. Call me back. I start to feel warm. Maybe I really do have a fever. I'm just about to listen to the voicemail from Goldie when someone in a hazmat suit approaches our clocks. I realize it's Joey, the guy who woke me up from my nap yesterday to take my temperature. He smiles. I guess I was too tired yesterday to see his dimples. I start to feel even warmer. You ready? Oliver has been sitting in his cot, tapping furiously on his phone, and talking to someone who I assume is his mom. I've been too distracted to really hear much of what he's been saying, but I'm so surprised he snaps out of the days to say, ready for what? Joey looks confused. Ready to transfer to quarantine? Oliver looks around, waves his arms. Isn't that where we are? Quarantine? Joey throws back his head and laughs. Oliver nervously chuckles, and it's clear he's just as confused as I am. Flora has a communicable disease who mutates. We don't fully understand yet. And Flora, you might have spread that uncommunicable disease to your boyfriend. He flips through the pages of his clipboard. Oliver, this could be the beginning of epidemic. I'm both comforted and disturbed by this excitement. You guys are going to the hospital. Same hospital as the man as for your flight. I say you guys could hang out, but the whole quarantine thing? He's not my boyfriend, I say quickly. And the hospitals are for sick people, I add without thinking. Joey looks at me sympathetically. Oliver seems too embarrassed to look in my direction, and how fast he pulled away from my kiss, like his lips were full of poison. Like my lips were full of poison. I don't like when people feel sorry for me, and I don't like the feeling poisonous, and I don't like that Joey thinks Oliver is my boyfriend. I wish I were back in Brooklyn. I could go for a walk like I do after a crummy day. Most times, I start out in different directions, but I always end up at the little community garden 2 blocks from my apartment. It's usually locked by the time I get to it, but I love looking at the statues. My favorite is one of a little girl with her head thrown back in glee, birds resting on her upturned arms. Suddenly, I really need fresh air. Joey is still watching me. He takes a pen from his clipboard, jots something down. Okay, let's get ready to go, he says brightly, like he's about to head for ice cream sundaes. Before we transport you both, we'll need to talk to your parents again. Since you're both minors, your parents will need consent to any medical supervision and procedures. The head doctor is the head doctor of the communal disease unit is going to be meet us by the ambulance. And what if they say no? I say quickly. What if who says no? Joey asked, furrowing his eyes at me. Our parents. What if they refuse to give consent? I asked, feeling suddenly hopeful that there is a way out of this mess. Well, then we'll have to get a court order to put you in quarantine, Joey says without skipping a beat. Court? I've never even been to detention before. Joey is grinning. Any other questions? He says. I have a ton, but it feels poisonous to ask any of them. Nope, I say with tight lips. All right, let's go, Joey says, slapping his knee. We walk through the warehouse, wheeling our suitcase behind us, and I'm in a daze. I need to figure out how to explain to Joey, to Oliver, to everyone, that I don't want Oliver to be my boyfriend. I didn't kiss him because I liked him. I kissed him because I'm trying to figure out when we walked outside that there were two ambulances with their doors open and two stretched with huge plastic covers waiting for us.